because they are not God's chosen people and they have no right claiming to be them. Jesus said, you say you are Jews and are not. Jesus warned you. So you're the same person that I've had the unenlightening conversation with. I think that you're missing something really important. And I shouldn't say it. I shouldn't, and I'm going to. Because you want to talk about the Bible, right? Because God talks about the synagogue of Satan. But look, so what did God say would happen to the third and fourth and even beyond if it kept going generations? Where did slavery start according to the Bible? Egypt. That's where it's, I mean, if you go by the Bible. Africa. And yet, when you look at Africa's history, they were enslaving their own people. Now, indentured servitude, if it's a mutual agreement, that's different. But God says that he will wait and make the third and fourth generation. In fact, he doesn't even do it. He says these are the consequences for it. And how, look at how Pharaoh was. And then look at what so I'm not, this isn't me, don't even somebody get all sensitive and be like, oh, you're trying to believe. No, I'm not. No, I'm just saying, if you believe in the Bible, how can nobody ever look at this? Instead, we're told it's everybody else's fault. But maybe, just maybe, what the Bible says is true, right? And so this ends up being a result, all of this. It doesn't mean these people, but when God says these are the consequences, your generations will suffer, and if it continues, their generations will suffer, and on and on and on. Until, because God sees it as hate at him. Yet everybody wants to say America's so racist and America did. Yeah, the elites did this, okay? The elite, not the America, again, you can't blame every white person for this bullshit. But literally, if you're somebody that believes in the Bible, why doesn't anybody look at this? Because this is where it started. Right here, right? Egypt, right around here. And then look at the history. All of it from Africa. Yet that's where it started. This has nothing to do with people's skin. It's just showing that God says, it's just, my thing is it proves the Bible, okay? Again, it's not that God does it. He says this will be the result. This will be the curse. And yet the history of Africa is, slavery has historically been widespread in Africa, not just of being sent out. Systems of servitude and slavery were once commonplace in parts of Africa, as they were in much of the rest of the ancient and medieval world. When the trans-Saharan slave trade, Red Sea slave trade, Indian Ocean slave trade, Atlantic slave trade began, slavery in South Africa and forced labor in the Congo Free State, many of the pre-existing local African slave systems began supplying captives for slave markets outside of Africa. Slavery in contemporary Africa still exists in some regions despite being illegal. In the relevant literature, African slavery is categorized into indigenous slavery and export slavery depending on whether or not slaves were traded beyond the continent. Slavery in historical Africa was practiced in many different forms: debt slavery, enslavement of war captives, military slavery, slavery of prostitution, enslavement of criminals, were all practiced in various parts of Africa. Slavery for domestic and court purposes was widespread throughout Africa. Plantation slavery also occurred primarily on the eastern coast of Africa and in parts of West Africa. So do you see, it's gone on. It's gone on in its history because the continued problem that started right here because of Pharaoh, and God says it will keep going. Because look at what they're doing today to white Africans in Africa. They are stealing their property. They are beating them up. They are killing them. I just did videos about this. But this is it's judgment. And it's not because God is horrible. God warns of this stuff, third and fourth generations. So then if you continue to put people enslaved in your country, it doesn't matter what country. I'm just saying it all started here. If you go by the Bible, that's where it started, in Egypt, in Africa. And then it's been this like curse ever since. God declares that he visits the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation for those who hate him. Yes, he would see people, unless it is a contractual agreement that, yes, I'm going to go because I'm in debt, or like the Puritans or the Pilgrims, they were willing to go, their boat was supposed to go to Pennsylvania. And they were going to go into a 7-year, because God says in the Bible, you can only keep them enslaved for 7 years. They were going just to get to the New World to go into indentured servitude, the Pilgrims. But their boat went off course and they ended up in Plymouth. So my point is that that's different. If it's a contractual agreement, then God says after 7 years, though, the owners have to let them go. That's why God gets this rap that he supports slavery. He doesn't, but he knows that people are going to do it anyway. So he tries to put things in place like, this is the rules you better follow. But the biggest thing is stop doing it, or else you will continue to curse your land. And that would happen for any country. Because God sees it as you hate him, that people would enslave and beat and you know, everything that's gone. I mean, look at what they've done to and not just white, it's mainly white Africans right now, but it's been to the middle class and the poor there that are black as well. They are literally cursing their country. And it's the poor people that suffer, but it will continue. If you believe the Bible. It says it will continue for as long as it takes, emphasizing accountability for ongoing rebellion. These warnings often reflect how sinful behaviors or behaviors can be passed down, leading to suffering in subsequent generations. For example, you know, everything we know, idolatry, disobedience, often led to exile and hardships. While consequences may last to the third and fourth generation, and that was just for one. Like that was just for one, you know, group of people. Then when the next group of people do the same thing because they keep passing it down, then it keeps going on to the third, fourth generation, on and on. It's a continuous cycle. God's love and mercy does extend to 1,000 generations for those who love him and keep his commandments. God warns of generational consequences for ongoing sin, but emphasizes personal responsibility in his overwhelming mercy for those who turn to him. Yeah, and it ripples throughout this. The danger of this is then it's just like with the Israelites, because this is everything he said to the Israelites. But if you think it only meant them, no, it meant everyone. That because then if your children see you doing this and that it's okay, then they will do it. That is the danger. That's the ripple effect. It does not mean God arbitrarily punishes innocent descendants, but rather holds accountable those who continue in their ancestors' sinful ways. So, yet this world that's run by the wicked one tells, oh, America's so horrible, right? And I'm not for slavery. I'm not. But I had nothing to do with it. Yet in the past, how many years we've had to hear that everybody with white skin, because of critical race theory, and because of this DEI bullshit, that everybody with white skin is responsible. And what I'm trying to say is I don't support it, but for anybody that believes in the Bible, can you not put it together here where it all started? And that's why there's this pattern? And I'm not trying to say every person that lives in Africa is cursed. No, it's not. But that's how important it is for every country to realize that these consequences continue to cycle.